Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on the Meds. We're not the Feds PT dubs, but we are here to break down health and medical related topics without all the BS. I'm Rachel.
I'm Pranavi.
And I'm Jessica.
So, what is today's episode?
So today's episode, we're learning all about schizophrenia. This isn't shits and giggles, it's skits and giggles. So Rachel, tell me, what is schizophrenia?
Schizophrenia, actually, while it is reduced to a lot of punchlines in the media and people kind of use the word in not the right context loosely, we're going to actually learn the real definition of schizophrenia. It's a type of mental disease, right? And it's chronic.
Which means
and it's what?
Forever. It's your entire lifetime.
Yeah, and it's really severe.
Wait, so it can't go away?
Yeah, it can't go away once you're diagnosed with it. I mean,
No.
Can it get better?
No, there are certain treatment methods,
you
right?
like suppress.
But then it's not really. There's not a lot of known miracle cures for it. There's still a lot unknown about schizophrenia, so take that into context while you listen to this episode, Skits and Giggles.
Yay!
Okay,
Will do.
Okay, so going on, it's like a mental disorder that affects how a person thinks, feels, and behaves, and it often involves them being out of touch with reality.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
I mean something like, for example, possible symptoms are hallucinations, delusions, and so on.
So you see things that are not real. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then you think of some things that are not real. Wait, but what is the difference between a hallucination and a delusion?
Oh, a hallucination is you actually see and hear stuff that isn't real, and then a delusion is when you believe stuff that isn't real. Delusions are beliefs, and hallucinations are one of your five senses.
So for
you
example,
either hear or see or smell, but I don't really know. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
So what are some other symptoms then?
Wait, I think for schizophrenia, you can separate them into two main symptoms. There's positive symptoms and negative symptoms. So the positive symptoms, they add to the experience. So there's stuff that people didn't have before developing schizophrenia. For example, the hallucinations and delusions that you talked about earlier, those are positive symptoms because before they had it, they didn't have those. And then the negative symptoms are things that get taken away from them after they develop schizophrenia, because after people develop schizophrenia, they can lose their memory, they can lose motivation, all that stuff. They had it before they had schizophrenia, but once they developed it, they started losing it and suppressing it.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll go into negative symptoms is also the less emotional expression.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the stigma of it's just hallucinations and delusions, it's really just talking about positive symptoms.
Yeah.
When in fact there's also negative symptoms. Yeah.
Wow, that's really sad.
Yeah.
Guys, gotta be nice to schizophrenic people out there.
I think people don't talk about the negative symptoms as much because there's a lot of other illnesses that cover those same negative symptoms. It's just the positive ones are more distinct.
Yeah.
The positive ones are more unique to the specific illness.
That's true.
Yeah, and I feel for these kind of symptoms, it's really hard to diagnose yourself with them, which is why most people with schizophrenia don't really think they have schizophrenia.
So how much people in the world do have schizophrenia?
About 1% of the population has schizophrenia.
So it's not even that rare as I imagined. I thought it'd be a way rarer thing.
Yeah, that's gonna be 0.0000002.
Yeah. No.
Which again is I guess why we can't use schizophrenic loosely.
Yeah.
It's used in
Because it actually
TikTok.
affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so terrifying, guys.
It's also really terrifying since it has a pretty early onset age, which is basically the age that people start developing it. It usually starts in your late teens and early 30s, and there's a difference between females and males. Also.
Oh yeah, for males it usually develops in their early 20s, but for females it develops in their late 20s if they have it.
Makes
But
sense.
then if some people, their genetics, it makes them more susceptible to develop it at an earlier age. So it's just a hereditary gene if you to get it earlier.
So there's not one single cause of schizophrenia. There's basically something called the diathesis hypothesis, in which basically genetics and environment does come into play with schizophrenia. So it's there's a gene that is inside your body that kind of contains a mutation that is related to schizophrenia, but then it's the stress around you, the environment, the childhood trauma, things like that just activate schizophrenia.
And the diathesis hypothesis it also applies to other diseases, right? Yeah, it's a broad scientific hypothesis about how diseases or illnesses show up in their patients. So first, do we want to talk about the genetics?
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, you probably know that from genetics, a lot of illnesses occur, not just schizophrenia, but a really kind of, I guess, unknown, but still a fascinating area of research for schizophrenia is that the genetics are really, really complicated. It's polygenic, meaning that it's not just attributed to one gene, but multiple, and we can't really quite trace it as a dominant gene or a recessive gene.
What's that?
What's the difference between?
Okay.
What does that mean?
So basically, in genetics, like you're inheriting genes from both of your parents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are genes that are dominant. So think of that as like a loud gene. Okay. And then there are, on the other hand, something called recessive genes. You can think of it as a quieter gene. Okay. So basically, when you inherit one from each parent, to make that phenotype, like for that phenotype or physical characteristic to appear like from that gene, for the dominant gene, since it's loud, it only really needs that one gene. Yeah. But for recessive, since it's quieter, to kind of have the same like effect in expressing it, you need two of them.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Does that make
So
sense?
with schizophrenia, how does that work?
So basically, it's not really dominant or recessive because as as like a twin and adoption study found, it was Salleh's study in 2004. It is largely genetic, and while the 60 to 80% risk of schizophrenia is largely genetic, the simple dominant and recessive part is really complicated.
So basically, you can test if a gene is recessive or dominant by like looking at the percentage of offspring that have the trait based off of the genotypes of the parents. So for example, if the gene was recessive and both parents had schizophrenia, that would mean that all of their children would also have it, like 100% of the offspring would have it, but the actual risk is less than 40%, which means that the gene can't be recessive.
Yeah.
And if it were dominant, then just one parent would be enough to pass it on to half of the offspring. But in reality, the actual amount of kids is about 8 to 15%.
Yeah, it's not 50%. So it's not
it's pretty
dominant
low,
either.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so what's even more surprising actually is that a lot of people with schizophrenia have no parent with the illness at all. So clearly it's not really behaving in that straightforward dominant or recessive way that we attribute like most diseases or illnesses to.
With diabetes.
Is that where the environment comes into play?
Yeah.
I think so. So with the environment, I think it does have to do a lot with like trauma and stuff like that.
Oh, so people from like more stressed households or
More
like
stressed.
with a more traumatic childhood, they're way more likely to
To develop
develop.
schizophrenia.
Yeah, as in a lot of mental disorders.
Yeah, like bipolar disorder. This-
DID.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with just like how you were raised, like your family circumstance and all of that. And we're gonna get into that soon with the Galvin family. So stay tuned.
And then I think with that environment is what brings up like I guess is what turns on the genes that were actually silent. Like the genes have silent susceptibility. It means like the genes are there, but then the illnesses don't show up.
Oh.
But then with the diathesis hypothesis,
So the right environment can make the gene show up?
exactly.
Or, the
Make it
symptoms, the illness show up.
activate the gene, yeah.
Oh, so it's like an asymptomatic person, kind of?
What do you mean?
Like they have the genes, but they don't show the symptoms of it because they don't.
Yeah, like you could have it, but then the effect of it isn't guaranteed, which scientists call incomplete penetrance for those of you who want to like sound smart, I guess. Penetrance? What the frick? No, penetrance is just a fancy way of saying that if you have the gene, do you actually get the condition? And for schizophrenia, it's just not always. You can carry the risk, but you like don't necessarily develop the symptoms, and it's not funny.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Did you know that by sequencing whole exones, like for those of you who like want to go in deeper, scientists basically got 24,000, a little bit more than 24,000 schizophrenic people, and then compared their genes to about 97,000 people who didn't have schizophrenia, and then they actually identified 10 genes that dramatically increase a person's risk of developing schizophrenia. So if you want to like see more information about that, be sure to go in that paper by Singh. Yeah. Yay! Yeah. And these variants are called protein truncating variants, which prevents cells from producing a gene's full-length functional protein, which is what contributes to all the genetic mishaps. Now I want to hear some examples about like real schizophrenic people, but are there like real life examples that are known?
Wait, I know a family. It's like the Galvin family.
So there's actually an entire book about the Galvin family. It's called Hidden Valley Road, if you guys want to take a look. And I think if you guys are interested in schizophrenia, you should definitely check it out. It's really interesting. So this is a real life example of a family. They have 12 children, 10 sons and 2 daughters. And out of all of those children, guess how many of them had schizophrenia?
Half.
Yep.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
6 out of 12 of those children were diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Did their parents have schizophrenia?
No, actually no.
No.
Basically, she carried a gene called the shank mutation.
Okay.
And basically, she passed those down to her kids. And like the same thing about like the activation. Like all of her kids had that gene, but only 6 of them had schizophrenia activated. Only 6 of them had that gene activated from. So the oldest son, his name was Zhan, and Donald, that was his full name, and he was actually diagnosed with schizophrenia. And
Was he the first one to?
He was the first one. He was the oldest. At around 19 or 19 to 21, that's when it happened. So, what you said, early stages. A lot of Don's hallucinations, like the oldest son, a lot of them were religious based. So he would be like, he would have visions of like Saint Mary like behind him, or like he would like pretend that he was a monk who like lived in China for like blah 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 this many years, and like dressed up in monk clothes and everything. And one of those reasons was because he was molested by a priest. Yeah, I mean it's really sad. Another time there's Brian. So Brian is the third son, and something really sad happened to him. But not only did he kill himself, but he killed his ex-girlfriend too. So it's a double homicide.
Wait, did they were they conscious of the fact that they had schizophrenia?
This is what happened. So, like the same thing about a schizophrenic mother, they were conscious, but their mom, named Mimi, she was always trying to hide the fact. No, it's really, really sad. And a lot of times, the things that made it worse was that back then there was no cure, right?
Well, there still is no cure, but there weren't any treatments.
Yeah,
or,
there were no treatments
to alleviate the symptoms.
Yeah. So all they were given was medication, just drug on drug on drug, like Dorazine and stuff like that. And what happens is that a lot of times, in one of the brothers' case, the medication is actually what killed him, because he took so much that his heart became clogged, and they gave him a heart attack. You never actually realize the horrors of it, or just how hard it is to have, unless you actually kind of see it from somebody else's point of view. Because a lot of times you think about schizophrenia or hallucinations, you see that, but you don't even know how much it actually does affect you in your life, just your jobs. It's something that's always gonna live with you, and it's just hard to accept that.
But I mean, I did read an article where the sister actually showed her opinion on basically their family's appearance in the media, the book, and the documentary. And what she said kind of stood out to me too. I mean, she said that obviously schizophrenia, it's used in the media or our culture to kind of be a headliner to grab people's attention when they don't really know actually know what's going on behind it. And then apparently she was also disappointed in the documentary's painting of the brothers in general, because obviously while they did have their hard moments, they also had some happy moments. They were also a family, and I think it's really important to
schizophrenia doesn't completely turn people evil.
It makes them doubt reality.
And I guess that's the big stigma behind it. So
that it's dangerous, but it's not always dangerous. It's not dangerous.
And then there's just more to these brothers than obviously just schizophrenia. I think I went to the Galvin Family website thing, and one of the brothers loved the Beatles.
Yeah, they played it clarinet. I was gonna say clarinet, but a clarinet, they play senior hall.
One of them was an athlete. They were talented musicians. So yeah.
Yeah. Just remember, behind the Schiz and Giggles, there's always
What's that?
A real person.
Yeah, as with any disease.
As with any mental disease, yeah. So don't stigmatize. Is that a word?
Yeah, stigmatize. Yeah.
So don't stigmatize mental illnesses.
And think about I mean, I can't even think about it, but the hardships that they had to go through in life, the pain of their families that's watching them, and so yeah.
Yeah, it's hard out there.
It can't really just become this kind of media topic. I think, yeah.
I think the media tends to reduce people. No, it tends to reduce people down to just a schizophrenia. It takes away their whole personality. It makes their whole personality them having schizophrenia.
Also on social media, I guess. Yeah. Speaking of media, let's talk about how these movies and media often stigmatize schizophrenia.
For example, the Joker.
Wait, what did the Joker do?
Okay, the Joker, he's basically crazy. Okay, I don't know how to explain it, but basically the Joker is crazy. That's his whole personality. He's psychotic and crazy. But because he's psychotic and crazy, people just assume that he has schizophrenia, the fandom, I guess. I don't know what else to call it. They say that he's so schizophrenic coded and stuff, which is kind of
it's offensive.
That's a bad stereotype, because basically they're just taking a really bad and crazy personality and just associating it with schizophrenia.
They're just basically thinking crazy equals schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Crazy and evil and bad equals schizophrenia. That's what that's what the Joker's kind of creating the effect.
Yeah.
And horror movies too. Most of the time they incorporate schizophrenic people being oh my god, I see something. And then oftentimes since it is horror movies in itself are associated with a sense of fear, it also leads to people being fearful of these schizophrenic people.
Yeah.
I agree. So next time you watch a horror movie, no, it's not real.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
sure.
That's good advice, I guess.
Okay, so what are some actual like ways that we could try to combat all this stigma around schizophrenia and also just other mental illnesses in general? Because there's like just like a lot of stereotypes about it that just aren't true.
I think the biggest thing is that you need to separate the mental illness from the actual person, because a lot of times you kind of merge them and it's like you see that person as they have this mental illness instead of like this mental illness is something that they have.
Yeah, like you basically
like
reduce the
you
person
reduce it
down
just
to
to that.
that illness. Yeah.
But it's not everything about a person. So
And also, we should just like make the media more aware of what they're doing too. Yeah, because this, like Pranavi said, it affects 1% of the population, so it actually is affecting people out there somewhere.
Yeah, and 1% is actually like, even though 1 is like a small number, 1% is a lot of people. That's like, I think it's like 24 million people worldwide who have it,
24 million.
which is a really
That's just a
significant
lot.
number. Yeah, it's not like a rare underground disease.
Was that all we have for today's episode of Schiz and Giggles?
that's all we have.
Wait, what am I supposed to say to the Joker?
Go like, no, Jessica should do that. That's like something Jessica would do.
Wait, hallucinations is like you see something.
I see you.
Be like midway between the 19,000s. So
19,000?
wait, no,
1900s?
Oh, sorry, 1900s. So
I don't want to see you guys do it.
yeah, do it. 3, 2. And that is what it's all about. Creative events.
Right? You're just always less than it.
Well, I love you guys.
Suddenly.
Psych!
Okay. Thanks for joining us on the Meds.
If you learned something new, hit that follow button. Wait, what did I say that wrong? Button. Hit that follow button. I heard it. Hit that follow button. On Spotify, turn on those notifications and never, ever miss an episode. And also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram
At Meducated
and check out our website
Meducated.org.
for some medical information. So now, stay sharp.
Stay safe.
And stay educated.
See you next time!